Alright everybody, I want to welcome you to my channel. My name is Andre. Before I get started, ignore these pictures right here. This is for my son's birthday. My son's name is Ellington. He looks like the character on the Peanuts, so that's why those are on the wall. But I want to welcome you guys. This is the first episode or vlog that I have. The title of my page will be called A Man and His Thoughts, and that's just what it is. Me and my thoughts. Sometimes I go all over the board, but the purpose of this is to really, it's centered around friends of the court. It's centered around helping men navigate that walk. Some things that I have to be honest with myself is that it's been difficult. This has been hard. I have 7 children. I pay for 2 kids. Out of those 7, I got 4 in my household with me and my wife. 2 from a previous marriage that I used to pay for. I have an 18-year-old who's in college now who I just finished paying for. And so, and I have 2 outside that I pay for. And it's been difficult. It's been tough. It's been nasty. But understand, Friends of the Court is made to be that way. Friends of the Court is not a nice place. It's not something that you're going to go in there holding hands and, singing Kumbaya. It's very confrontational, and I think you have to understand that. And once you understand that, you will be able to prepare yourself when you go in there. But I want to preface that by saying this is in no way to help men get out of paying support or elude the system. This is strictly for men who are having a hard time understanding the system, who is having a hard time in that walk with the Friends of the Court, and some of the things we don't know. You men need to understand that the lawyers at the Friends of the Court are not for you. They're not for you. I don't care what they say. They're for the Friends of the Court. That's why it's important that even the things I say, that you men go back and do your own research too, and women. This can be used both ways, but you have to go at this for real, and don't do it all in one night. It's a process. This is a process. One thing, I'm constantly learning. I have a 13-year-old that I pay for. And it's difficult because I'm still learning things. I learned a lot, but there's little things I'm still learning. Like when you ask for a, I think it's called when you look at your support again. They're your conciliator, or your referee, or your intake coordinator. They have to give you a 5-kid credit. If you have 5 children, they have to credit those 5 kids that factor in to your overall amount. Most people don't know that. I just learned that a couple weeks ago. But it's been a fight. The funny thing is, I pay less for my 2 kids than most people pay for one. I know dudes paying $400 or $500 for 1 kid. But it's about fighting. And when I say fighting, that's a strong word. That's really what it is. That's really what it is. But we'll get into those things later as we progress. So let me give you an email address that you can email me questions at, and that you can ask me questions, scenarios, and my job is to try to help you. And you may not like my answer, but once again, it's a man and his thoughts. I'm not going to just say any random stuff, but at the same time, you have to be honest on the things that you're asking me. But it's also important that we have a dialogue, because sometimes you need a neutral person to bounce things off of. And so in the next post, I'll give you my email address, so that way you guys we can have some type of dialogue about that. But kind of back to the subject matter is, Friends of the Court is a very serious, it's a very hardcore place that most men don't like going into. We go in with attitude, we go in pissed off, just because that's how it feels when you go in there. But I want to caution you, man, you gotta go in there with your head on your shoulders, because those people behind that glass window are taking notes. You better believe in some cases they're shooting your worker a note hey, this person was here today, they're rude, disrespectful, I don't know what their problem is, I didn't like it, I felt uncomfortable. They can say whatever they want. But what you need to understand is when the next time you go to court, you better believe that note's going to come out. So you have to be mindful. And I say mindful because that's what I was taught. Always be mindful. Always learning. There's a lot of notes. There's a lot of policy changes that you don't know about that happens every year, every quarter, or every 2 weeks. There's things that's constantly changing. Like for instance, you used to get an abatement. And that abatement basically means for every 7 days or every overnight you get a credit for your child. But now all those things are factored in to your order now. So they kind of wipe that out. Back in the day, you used to get credit for when you buy your kids clothes as long as you keep the receipt. Those things don't matter no more. So it's important that you arm yourself with knowledge in this department, because my experience is that I've ran across people who thought I was dumb until I start talking, and they had to take a step back and be like, okay, I can't talk any type of way to this person because he knows some stuff. And so that's what this is about. It's about really arming yourself and being knowledgeable. I'm going to be straightforward with you guys. Like, if you're still sleeping with your baby mama, we're going to talk about it. Because that's partly why you're having issues. Because you sleep with her at 11 o'clock. And you're leaving by 3. But yet you're not getting up with her to go to a conference or a PTA meeting. Or you're not going to sit in your son's or daughter's classroom. All you worry about is getting one off. But then when she catch up with a woman, you wonder why she spaz out. That's not cool. So we're going to discuss a lot of those little things because that's what's happening. The same energy some of you dudes put into being in girls' inboxes and, having all these cool posts. Put that effort into your kid. Put that effort in going to fight for your kids. Trust me, I've seen enough men cry leaving that courtroom, leaving that office, because that's how hurt they are. We have to come together and figure out how can we deal with this problem effectively. How many men got to go to jail over this? And some of these men going to jail not even criminals. They just fell on their bad luck. Like, for instance, me. I've been out of work for almost over a year. I got 2 degrees. 2. I got over 15 years experience in certain fields. I can't even find a job. It's been difficult. But I always make time for my kids, though. But on the back end, I'm struggling inside because I don't have a job. And I'm very intelligent. I'm very smart. So there's men like me out there that's dealing with the same thing. So we can figure these things out together. Talk about your resume. What you should wear to your job interview. All these things play into how you handle yourself when you go to court. Because the first thing they're going to do, or some of the first things, they're going to look at your job history. They're going to look at your job history. See, when I can go in there and look at all applications I didn't pull it out. I can show them what I've been doing. Yeah, Mr. Brown, you just fell on some bad luck right now. And that's just clearly what it is. But through that process, something's going to happen. But we have to educate ourselves. Period. So that means we need to talk to our councilmen and women, our local city council, our mayors, our senators, and ask them what's going on here. Because the Friends of Court is very powerful. From my understanding, they get their money before the IRS get their money. So that should give you some type of understanding how much clout they have. We're going to deal with the women who use Friends of the Court as their personal playground. But they only do that because a lot of you men allow for it to happen. You got to lace up your boots. Dig in. It's going to be a nasty ride. But when you get through it, you're going to be grateful. You're going to be grateful. If you got warrants and stuff like that, man, deal with that stuff. See, some of you guys got these warrants and y'all want to deal with it. Deal with that stuff. Call your PO or call the court. Say, hey, this is the situation. What can I do so I don't go to jail? I'm just trying to do the right thing. because that's why a lot of you don't go to court, because of that issue. So let's figure that stuff out together. Because if we don't, this stuff is going to continue to happen. Like the gentleman in Detroit about a year and a half ago, and I don't know, I got to check up on the story, but he got sent to jail for a kid that's not even his. The son in question is like 24 now. The young lady said that he fathered this child, but funny as it is, he was in prison during this alleged fathering of this child. And the lady even came forward and said, yeah, I lied just so I can get, food assistance and cash assistance. And the actual father came forward, yeah, that's my child. DNA proved it that this was the other man's child. The courts didn't care. They didn't care. They still held this man responsible for this child. I'm like, all the evidence is there. They didn't care. So that's to tell you how bad the system is. That's what we're dealing with. You got some women, this is their life, making $200,000 and $300,000 a year just off child support. Just off child support alone. That's their job. It don't cost them much to raise a kid. Like, I know people like to use that, but really, $300,000 a year? Come on. A kid don't know money like that at 1, 2, 3, 4 years old. That's crazy. Now, I'm not saying if you're a wealthy man and you living in a 10,000 square foot home and your baby mama living in an apartment, that's kind of messed up. You need to get her right, put her in a nice home somewhere, take care of her. But that's crazy, some of the stuff. But we'll dig into a lot of that stuff later. And kind of in closing, if there's lawyers, young lawyers, if you want to put your services out there, shoot me an email once I give you the email address. And I do definitely want to expect some kickback based off of, you sign people up for representing them. I think that's only right. Of course, this is the business side of, this thing here. I think that's very, I'm not dumb. If I'm giving you free press, free publicity, or whatever the case may be, I'm definitely going to put your name out there. I'm going to continue to say, hey, if you need representation, call this gentleman, and I'll give your name, address, and all that information, so that way people can reach out to you or her or whoever it may be. But we'll talk about that particular financial piece through email. But we definitely have to come together and talk about this. And I'm not going to be sitting in the seat this late as Saturday, and I want to do it right now. So some days I may be walking outside talking to you guys. I may be on the patio smoking a cigar. I like to smoke cigars. I may be doing that. But also we're going to talk about things you can do with your kids when you have them in your care. We're going to talk about documentation, because that documentation is God. Follow your custody agreement. Do not deviate. That will be the death of you when you go to court, because all it takes is that one time for you and that woman to get into argument, and she'll bring that deviation up how you was okay with it, and it's going to go downhill. Between that and documentation, those things will get you destroyed. So please make sure you do that. So with that being said, I am Dre. It's been smooth talking to you guys, and we'll definitely link up on the next video. See you soon.